Hello, friends. Moving on to the next episode as far as careers and job security, job securing is concerned. Today, we are going to look at the next stage for finding the best job. As I said, there are no perfect jobs that you would be able to find. So we have looked at the process of pre-search. We have looked at how to prepare and apply for a job. And if you have done all of that in a fantastic manner, then the next logical step would be for you to be invited for a job interview. So, this is what I'm going to cover in today's episode of how best to prepare for a job interview and how to conduct yourself and drive the interview. You have to remember that you are in control also. It's not that you are just sitting there and answering their questions. How to drive the interview to get to the next stage of the journey. Okay, and that is receiving a job offer. We'll look at that later. Today, let's focus on job interview. There are some general tips, not some, there are many general tips which I'm going to go through. Again, as I always say, they are not in any order of importance. You have to decide what is important for you and make sure that you, you behave and you conduct yourself in that way. The first and foremost thing is dress appropriately. As they say, the first look creates the first impression. So dress appropriate. And before going for the interview, as soon as you get the call, do your research. Do your research about the company, about the job, what that job description speaks of, what are the other information you can get with that job information, what are the new age tools that you can implement and you can use to make that job better for you, and other things in general. If you can find out about who's going to be your boss and how the company culture and so many different things. But these are basic essentials. You have to find out about the company. You have to know what kind of business they are in, blah, blah, blah. You have to find out about the new age tools based on the job description that has been. As soon as you can, when you start the interview, establish a trust with the interviewer. Very difficult because you hardly have time. You would probably get about 3 to 4 minutes to establish trust. So make sure that you establish the trust with it. And knowing that it's going to come up and that it needs to be brought up, prepare a pitch which you will give to the interviewer. A few clear ideas about your skills, back it up with data if you have, and what you can contribute to the company in that job profile so that you are getting more and more, you're delivering more and more to the company. Okay. Show an interest in the job. Make sure that you show them that you are interested, that the job is interesting for you. Do not promise more than what you can deliver. Do not overpromise under any circumstances. But at the same time, you have to make a balance and do not underplay your skills and capabilities. You have to tell them what you're capable of, but don't overpromise. If you're capable of doing this much, say that you can do this much, but show with your skills and capabilities as per your resume and your PVP that this is there always. Shut up. I have seen and conducted interviews myself where once I asked that person, tell me something about yourself. In one particular case, I know that for 32 minutes, he was talking just about himself. And our response to that one question, shut up, don't talk so much, not about yourself. Yes, when you want to talk, when the discussion is going on, you want to know something about the job, ask questions more than the same, but don't give a monologue on when they say, tell me something about yourself, kind of a question. Okay. Listen attentively. The interviewer is going to attempt and explain to you in decent amount of detail of what the job encompasses and what is the work that is expected out of you. And at any time while he is explaining or while that conversation is going on, if there is anything that is not clear to you, please do ask a question, but make sure that you get enough clarity on what the job is about. Very often that there are things you want to tell the interviewer, but you don't get a chance to do it because the interviewer never asks you that. Now, once the interview starts and you see that, okay, this is not going to come up, when some other question is asked of you, try to correlate what you had decided you would like to inform the interviewer. Bring it up and talk about it. Okay, but bring it up in a subtle manner. Don't let it look like you are moving from one particular topic of discussion to another, which has no link at all. That is why you must bring this up only when the interview is asking you a question where you can reasonably make the statements that you want to do. Be like us. Don't be arrogant. Don't be up-nosy during an interview. I have had plenty of cases where the first question normally I would ask is, tell me something about yourself. Of course, I gave you this thing of that guy talking for nearly 32 minutes. But the other is, when that guy talks for just 2 minutes, but he tells me in those 2 minutes that he just wants the job. He is unabashedly asking for it. Don't ever do that. Doesn't convey the right impression to the interviewer. When you're talking, I have done this in my marketing talks with my hopefully becoming clients, people, that create a hook. Some sentence or some word, maybe even a word you have coined. I've done that very often, by which that person will remember you. Because I have seen very often that when I'm sitting in front of, okay, I'm not talking of a job interview, but when I'm sitting in front of a new client, a potential client for the first time and I talk, at the end of the day, he doesn't remember my company's name. He doesn't remember me, so to say, but he will remember that hook I have created and he would remember my product. But you need to have something. And if you're creating such a hook, when you are sending your thank you note after the interview or after the conversation, be sure to mention that statement in that communication so that he recollects who you are. Okay. So set up that hook. Do not keep referring to your resume when you are in the interview. Because, well, it hasn't happened to me too often. Sometimes it has. But that then instantly gives me the impression that that person thinks I have not read his interview at all, or he's trying to check whether I have read his resume or not. Okay, and that is not the case. He is talking about it only because he wants to emphasize that, okay, it's all mentioned there, but it creates the wrong impression. Do not ever get into a confession or a pleading mode. Two different things. Confession mode generally happens when, so why did you quit your last job? And then you start a big monologue and confessing on what happened and what you felt about that. Forget about it. Don't get into that mode. Or don't get into a pleading mode to plead that, please give me the job. If you have to ask for the job, ask for it based on your facts and your ability. Don't plead for it. Do not be overly formal. I have seen that. I have done that. I remember one case where I was so overly formal that on a Friday, I went for an appointment with a major and everybody was dressed in a t-shirt except me. And the dumbbell that I was, this was many years, it was, I think, in the first or second year of my getting into marketing of jewelry. The dumbbell that I was, it took me half an hour and a hint from one of the buyers that I could remove my tie and my jacket and open up one button of my shirt if I want. So don't be overly formal. And make sure that you go with the flow of the conversation. As I said, no sudden jumps in topic to get in what you want to say. Go with the flow. But within that flow, when you get an opportunity, say what you want to say. Okay. And whenever you're going with the flow and when you get an opportunity, whether you have thought of it or not, be sure to prepare and go and convey to them what it is like to work with you. Okay, people don't want people to employ people who are difficult to work with. You have to demonstrate to them through your talk and through the what you have done in the past. Maybe even as a student, it's your first job. It's okay. What you can do and that you are willing to learn, and that you take initiative and you deliver. These are the important ones. Always speak in the first person. Don't say one should or one would or you should. No. I would, I did. That is the way to talk and go. A big factor is that a lot of aspirants for jobs think that it would be detrimental to disagree and to get into a discussion, not an argument, with the interviewer. I don't think that is true. It's okay to disagree with the interviewer and express your opinions honestly, but you have to first judge the interview, see his demeanor, see how he speaks, and then decide whether it is worth disagreeing with him or not. And when you disagree and want to put forward your opinion, start with a simple question. I have a little different perspective. May I share it with you? I can guarantee you nobody is going to say no. They're not going to say, keep your perspective to yourself. No. And then formulate your response properly. It should not sound arrogant or it should not sound demeaning to that interviewer. Okay? Be calm and controlled, especially when you are talking. It's very good to get passionate, but you have to be calm and controlled. Passion is different. Okay? Now, this is the general tips for the interview, but an interview is all about the interviewer asking you different questions. And there are a lot of GAQs, generally asked questions. I'm not calling them FAQs. They are GAQs. And you need to prepare very well for some of the GAQs that you are expecting. Okay, a typical one is an interviewer asking you, tell me about your strengths and weaknesses. Okay, now, as typical as that question is, 90% of the time you get typical answers. Oh, I'm very creative. Oh, I'm very innovative. I am a great team player. Well, who is it when it comes to an interview? Or when we talk of weaknesses, oh, my weakness is that I'm a perfectionist. I want to do everything perfectly well. Or I have all the time in the world to devote to the job and everything that needs to be done will be done. These are actually weaknesses. Perfectionism means you might not ever deliver anything on time. Okay? And all the time in the world, if you give, you're going to get burnt out pretty fast. So don't give such typical answers. These are trite. These are unoriginal. And they do not speak much about your creativity or your innovative powers. And all you're trying to do is to impress the interviewer. But trust me, the interviewer does not get impressed. Now, in such a question, you need to be very well aware because you're walking a tightrope. There is a fine line between a great answer and a trite one. Basically, you need to stand out. So your answer needs to be original, but it needs to be completely honest. You cannot even iota of a fib in that. And your answer must be supported by what you have said in your PVP and your resume. It cannot be even slightly deviating from that. So let us look at some of the ways that you would give a great, authentic, and innovative answer, original answer to this kind of a question. So you need to prepare from before. It's not going to come to you standing on your feet there or sitting on your on your backside there. It's not going to happen. Okay. So you need to prepare. So now for strengths, focus on a strength that is required for the job description that we are talking. So you need to focus on one of the strengths that is required for that job based on the job description that you have got. Okay, this is something that you have to judge and decide which strength you want to pick on. Take that, connect that requirement, connect it to your skill, to your aptitude, and describe how that strength of yours is going to help you succeed at the job. That is a strength that they would be looking for. Demonstrate and mention some of the skills that you have. Okay, like if you're good at communicating, don't just say I have great communication skills. Say that I have communication skills that can help me to become very good, or which makes me very good at public speaking, or which makes me very good at making presentations. Or if you're people skill, say that, okay, this gives me the opportunity for great team management and customer care. So once you have decided which strength you are going to talk of, maybe you choose two of them, not just one. Once you have decided, then sit down, think about the strength, formulate how you're going to present it. Think about a real life use that you have made either in your career or in your life. For that use, figure out and word out the impact that it created. And tell the interviewer in very well phrased sentences about how you enjoy using the skill and that you leverage it for your success. So in the same way for weaknesses, you need to be authentic, but make sure that that weakness is not self-sabotaging. So if it's a weakness where that skill which you're weak at is required for the job, don't talk of it. And whenever you talk of a weakness, don't use the word weakness. Preferably call it a challenge. Because once you call it a challenge, it automatically also implies that you are willing to put in the effort to eradicate that weakness. Okay, so choose a weakness that can be easily corrected with some amount of training, with a lot of commitment and everything, but yes. And as I said in the beginning, avoid those cliched words like I'm a perfectionist or I'm a workaholic. Okay, so choose a challenge, not a weakness. Choose a challenge that is not critical to the job that you are applying for. And once you have, just like for strength, find out how you are, determine how you're going to describe the weakness, what are the consequences of that, possible consequences of that weakness, and your eagerness to address that challenge. That is important. So this is one CAQ which we looked at in detail. We can't go through all the CAQs in such detail. So we are going to quickly run through a few other GAQs. Typical question, what is your desired salary? Trust me, you should never say what you want as a salary. Let them say the first number. You don't give a number. They'll ask you, they'll twist it around. They'll ask you in 10 different ways. Be aware and do not ever give that number. Typical question, why did you leave your last job? First thing to remember, never ever badmouth anything about your last job. Be honest about why you left. If you left in unfavorable circumstances or were fired, prepare well in advance how you're going to explain that. And if there was a lesson to be learned, demonstrate and tell them that you have learned that lesson. Typical question, why should I hire you? I don't need to tell you how to prepare for this. You need to get hired because you are great at you're going to be great at doing the job. So I explain to them why you are great, what are the requirements of the job. And that's where that modern age tools will come and say, I can use this and it'll become easier to do the job and better results will be, and whatever else. Okay. Tell me about yourself. I already told you, no 32-minute talks. Briefly tell them your USPs. No weaknesses, no challenges to be mentioned here. Okay. Weaknesses we talked of, strengths we talked of. Another question that is frequently asked is, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Do not ever tell the interviewer that I want to be in the job that you are in. No. But do tell them that you would look for promotions, you would look for an expansion of your role, of your profile about 5 years, and tell them what you are willing to do to get there. So there are many GAQs that will come your way. And when you apply and start researching the company, start researching the job, you can judge what interviewer is going to ask you, and therefore think of those GAQs and prepare answers for them. So go well prepared with all the responses, but at the same time, keep on your thinking cap during the interview. You might be asked a GAQ which you did not expect, a googly, so to say. You have to be able to think on your feet or your butt, as I said, and answer that very, very clearly. Okay, let's stop here today. We'll continue with the interview process and interview thoughts in the next episode, and have a great evening. By the way, I love some of the comments that have come my way, especially one that came from an HR manager who has asked me if I would be willing to give such a talk to the students of some college where also she is associated with, for graduating students. Oh, I'd love to do that. I did tell her that. I'd love to do that, and I'm so looking forward to that opportunity. Have a great evening. Enjoy yourself. Thank you.